Good day. Welcome to France 24 and Radio France International for an exclusive interview of the President of the Republic of Congo, Denis Sassou-Nguesso. He's with us live from Brazzaville, along with me, Karen Frank from RFI, to interview him. Mr. President, good day.
Very good day to you.
Mr. President, you just announced that the lockdown due to COVID-19, which was to stop at the end of April, will be extended in Congo to 15 May. You also announced it'll be compulsory to wear masks. There's going to be a screening campaign at a large scale. Does this mean that you are afraid that the worst may be yet to come in terms of this pandemic?
Yes, indeed, we've taken that decision because these past few days, after 30 days of lockdown, we've noticed a rise in the epidemic. Today, we've reached close on 260 cases, and that includes some 10 deaths, including 2 doctors, and some 30 recovered cases. We believe the epidemic is still very much present, and that's why we felt it useful to strengthen protection measures over the next fortnight.
Mr. President, patients of COVID-19, there are some other treatments that are somewhat controversial, one based on chloroquine, another one developed by Madagascar based on artemisia. You just ordered some of this. Some people wonder, though, as to the effectiveness of these medicines. Do you intend to use these in Congo?
Well, we believe that everyone trusts scientific progress, but we also have lives to save. Since the scientists haven't yet developed an effective drug that is accepted by all, and we believe that all the trials that are being conducted elsewhere and that have yielded some positive side, including that of Professor Raoult, or the product from Madagascar. We believe that in a hospital setting, in a controlled environment, we must test them to try and save lives.
Mr. President, of course, there's this health crisis. You just alluded to this. You're still experiencing it. There's also an economic crisis. Furthermore, in your country, there's an oil crisis. The oil prices have plummeted, collapsed recently. Your oil income will be cut in half. There should be a substantial recession. Are you not worried? Are you not concerned that there might be a collapse of your country's economy?
Yes, indeed. What you say is quite correct, and our Parliament has just approved a budget that has halved our 2020 budget. But we're confident. We believe the world has experienced similarly serious situations in the past, and the global economy will once again bring about a rise in oil prices, and we don't see a general widespread collapse of the economy, and not a collapse in the Congolese economy.
Mr. President, The IMF did not include you on the first list of 25 countries to whom they're giving urgent assistance. Are you not afraid that you'll be forgotten about? Especially since the IMF has frozen a tranche of aid in December. They felt you hadn't met your obligations, among others pertaining to transparency, as well as restructuring your debt with China and especially oil traders.
Well, yes, we are in constant touch with the International Monetary Fund. Congo's debt has been restructured with the support of China, and our negotiations with the traders are headed in the right direction. We believe that the International Monetary Fund takes into account all those factors and will approve the request from emergency aid that we've submitted.
Mr. President, how much are you asking from the IMF? And do you think that you will reach an agreement? There are two oil traders especially that you've been in dispute with for many years, a lot of money, Trafigura and Glencore. Do you think you'll reach an agreement with them? How much are you asking the IMF for?
Well, we're confident. We believe that we'll be able to reach an agreement with Trafigura and Glencore, and the IMF, well, we're asking assistance of the order of $300, $400, $500 million. So why not? But we're in contact with the authorities of the IMF.
Now, facing this epidemic, African intellectuals have launched an appeal to heads of state, asking for them to do more for their populations. You have been in power for a long time in a country that is potentially so rich. You should feel especially targeted. Do you recognize your share of responsibility?
Well, those intellectuals that you refer to, I mean, I don't know if they're really in contact with us on the continent here, but in any event, we are responsible for the lives of our people. That's indeed true, and we've taken a series of measures in order to reduce the difficulties that the people are experiencing in this time of crisis through a solidarity fund of 100 billion CFA francs to support firms in difficulty as well as the informal sector. Also, assistance directed against the poorest sectors of the population, and we believe that we'll be able to take all necessary measures to support our people faced with this difficult situation, and we've always done that in the past.
Mr. President, there's an NGO called Publish What You Pay, which just revealed something. They did a survey of health projects. They maintain that out of 69% health projects budgeted in the past 2 years, none of them actually came to fruition. The question is then, this money was earmarked, budgeted to build hospitals. It disappeared. It was embezzled. First of all, how do you react to those claims? And if they turn out to be true, what do you intend to do?
Well, all this is totally untrue. Not a single penny has been embezzled. We've planned to build some 14 hospitals, 12 for the districts, as well as a central Army Hospital, the Mothers and Children Hospital has been completed. The other 75% structurally completed. But all these construction sites have been stopped, halted because of the collapse in the price of oil, but we're indeed hopeful that construction will resume, and we plan to resume too this year.
So these are untruths. You're saying this is untrue.
So all that is just a figment of the imagination. It's really in the imagination of those who speak and who speak from afar. It would be good if they were to come here to the Congo in Africa to see with their own eyes.
Human rights organizations, such as Amnesty International, are calling for the release of political prisoners during the pandemic. Among others, they mention your opponents, such as Mokoko and Salissa. I would ask you, would you be prepared to make that gesture for health reasons and for humanitarian reasons before the elections in 2021?
Well, Madam, I must tell you that the individuals you mention are not in prison because they're political figures. They ran for election in 2016 quite freely, and then they were taken to court for ordinary law crimes, and that's why those individuals were sentenced. In any event, as regards the government, it was decided to grant the release of 365 prisoners sentenced for minor offenses. Others had completed the largest part of their sentence. 365 prisoners were released in order to free up space in the prisons. But the individuals that you cite are not in prison because they're political figures, but because they committed these crimes.
So they will not be released. That's what you're saying today.
Well, there's no reason for their release, as I say, to free up space in the detention center. 365 prisoners were released.
Briefly, we'll talk about the presidential election in 2021. It's slated for Q1. We know the elections calendars in some countries are going to shift and change because of the pandemic. Will the election take place as scheduled, or are you considering postponement due to COVID-19?
Well, that option is not currently being considered.
Some people claim that you are grooming your son, Denis, to be your successor one day. Is that true? Is that what you would like?
Well, Madam, that really is just pure fiction. Can we perhaps address some more serious matters, please?
We will talk about something in the news. This has been in the news for quite some time, Libya. You are in charge of the African Union High-Level Committee. Hopes for ceasefire have not come to fruition. There have been problems. Any attempt at mediation has failed. My question is there going to be a catastrophe in Libya? Are we on the brink of that? The National Reconciliation Conference that was slated for July in Addis Ababa, can that take place in these conditions?
What you describe there is indeed a most unfortunate and dramatic situation. And yet, since the meeting that was held in Berlin, it was generally acknowledged that no military solution was possible in Libya, and that we needed to move towards a political solution with a ceasefire. And for the African Union, that's all about preparing and then holding a national reconciliation forum that is inclusive at Addis Ababa. And you see that the conditions don't allow that for the time being. However, the African Union does indeed maintain that objective because it believes that there's no military solution in Libya. And you can clearly see that this situation is tragic for women, for children, and migrants. And I'd like to take this opportunity to appeal to the warring factions in Libya for them to be wise and realize and put an end to the suffering of the Libyan people.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving this interview. I thank all of you for watching us on the two media, France 24 and Radio France International.